Many people believe that having their life in order means everything is perfect, devoid of problems, and every aspect under absolute control. They eagerly await that mythical day when debts vanish, relationships become harmonious, and motivation remains constant. But that day, that perfect state of existence, simply doesn't arrive. And while they wait for this ideal situation, life continues its chaotic, messy dance, draining energy and clouding clarity. I've come to understand, through years of observation and personal experience, that putting your life in order isn't about waiting for everything to magically align. It's about taking charge of what you can organize right now. It's not about transforming everything in an instant, but about setting clear priorities, ruthlessly eliminating distractions, and making firm decisions about your direction. Order isn't bestowed upon you like a gift. It's meticulously built, choice by choice, habit by habit, act of responsibility by act of responsibility. When a man takes the reins of his time, his finances, his thoughts, and his surroundings, something profound happens. He stops reacting to life and starts directing it. His destiny transforms from an accident of circumstances into a conscious creation, because true control over your life isn't achieved by waiting for the right moment, but by actively creating that moment. And that moment begins the instant you decide to impose order, here and now. The initial step to organizing your life begins with a stark truth that many try to evade. The vast majority of the disarray you experience isn't a random occurrence. It's the direct consequence of decisions you've postponed, conversations you've avoided, boundaries you've failed to establish, and habits you've allowed to grow unchecked. Chaos rarely erupts like a sudden thunderstorm. More often, it infiltrates your life silently, like an unpaid bill left for later, a corner of your home that gets messy for just one day, a commitment you knew you had to fulfill but deferred to next week. Each of these small omissions, individually, might seem insignificant, but together, they form an invisible weight that suffocates your mental clarity and diminishes your capacity to make decisive choices. Disorganization isn't confined to the physical realm. It invades your thoughts, contaminates your focus, and plunges you into a perpetual state of feeling behind. And this feeling is profoundly detrimental because it saps your energy before you even begin to act. It's imperative to grasp that your external life and your internal world are intricately intertwined. If your physical environment is cluttered with items you don't use, commitments you don't enjoy, and relationships that offer no value, it's highly probable that your mind is equally burdened with unfinished ideas, half-hearted projects, and unresolved worries. Imagine, for a moment, your life as a vast workspace. If this desk is piled high with crumpled papers, empty coffee cups, tangled wires, and objects that simply don't belong, searching for something important will take longer, lead to frustration, and occasionally, cause you to give up entirely. This is precisely what happens to your mind when it's overloaded with pending tasks and unmade decisions. It becomes slow, scattered, and prematurely exhausted. The very first action towards putting your life in order isn't about acquiring fancy planners or mastering complex organizational methods. It's about possessing the raw honesty to look at what's in front of you and accept it as your direct responsibility. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down everything you know needs to be resolved. Every single thing, from the most trivial matters, like fixing something around the house, to the most profound, such as a pending conversation with someone important or a goal you've postponed out of fear. Don't filter anything. When that inventory lies before you, something powerful occurs. The intangible transforms into the concrete. What was once a diffuse cloud of stress becomes a clear list of actionable steps. And in that moment, for the first time, you cease to be a victim of invisible chaos and become the architect capable of redesigning your reality. Putting your life in order isn't simply about removing what's superfluous. It's also about intentionally choosing what remains and why. And for that, you need an unyielding filter. Does this bring me closer to the life I desire, or does it pull me away from it? Applying this question with sincerity will make it abundantly clear that many of the things, people, and habits that populate your daily existence do not deserve to be there. But letting go is not easy. It demands courage to face the void left by what departs. However, clinging to that which limits you is far more costly than freeing yourself from it. Order demands discipline, and discipline always exacts a price. Temporary discomfort in exchange for lasting freedom. As you begin this process, you might notice something curious. Initially, you may feel like you're not making progress, that the list is endless, that each step you take barely lightens the load you carry. But if you persevere, you will begin to perceive a silent transformation. The pressure in your mind will diminish, your energy will return, and, most importantly, you will witness the once overwhelming monster fragmenting into manageable pieces. Each issue resolved, each space organized, each commitment fulfilled is a silent declaration. I decide. I control. I direct. That is the true genesis of a life lived in order. When you stop reacting to problems and start designing the trajectory of your destiny, one day at a time, one decision at a time, until chaos is no longer the author of your story. Ordering your life is not an isolated act. It's an ongoing process that demands absolute clarity regarding your priorities. The pervasive issue is that most individuals live by reacting to the urgent rather than acting upon the important. They dash from one commitment to another, from one distraction to another, extinguishing fires that, in many cases, they themselves ignited by failing to foresee the problem in the first place. Consequently, their energy is consumed by tasks that do not advance them towards any genuine goals, perpetuating a cycle of exhaustion and frustration that repeats relentlessly. To break free from this cycle, it is absolutely essential to understand that not everything that clamors for your attention truly deserves it. Learning to discern between what you must do and what you merely can do is a skill that fundamentally transforms both your productivity and your inner peace. The foundational step in defining priorities is to accept that time is your most valuable, yet most limited resource. You can recover lost money, you can improve your health, you can even mend relationships, but you can never, ever reclaim lost time. Every hour you invest in something that holds no real value for your life is an hour that is gone forever. Therefore, ordering your life necessitates daily self-questioning. Does what I am about to do today contribute to my long-term vision, or does it merely resolve a momentary discomfort? If the answer is the latter, you must possess the courage to postpone it, delegate it, or eliminate it entirely. A man who is unaware of his priorities lives at the mercy of others' priorities. There will always be someone seeking your time, your attention, your energy. And if you do not establish your own boundaries, the world will impose them upon you. Order begins when you learn to say no without guilt, when you protect your mornings for tasks requiring your utmost concentration, and when you consciously reserve time for planning rather than living life improvising. Ordering your schedule is tantamount to ordering your mind. You cannot build anything substantial on a calendar crammed with irrelevant commitments. This is precisely where the profound importance of conscious planning comes into play. It's not about filling every single hour with tasks. It's about ensuring that each hour has a clear and purposeful intent. Planning doesn't equate to absolute rigidity. It signifies clarity of intention. It's akin to charting a map before embarking on a journey. Detours and adjustments may arise, but you will possess a clear understanding of your ultimate destination. Every day that passes without a plan is a day where inertia dictates your actions, and inertia rarely leads you to the right place. By ordering your life from the vantage point of your priorities, you begin to perceive a distinct pattern. The essential is always lesser in quantity than the urgent, yet infinitely greater in its impact. The conversations that fortify relationships, the deep work that propels significant projects forward, the habits that reinforce your health and character. These are what must occupy the center of your attention. When you live in this manner, you not only reduce disarray, but also experience a renewed sense of control over your destiny. Because ceasing to chase the urgent and commencing to walk towards the important is the fundamental difference between living by chance and living with purpose. And that difference, quite literally, defines what your life will ultimately become. Putting your life in order also necessitates confronting a terrain that many actively avoid, your financial landscape. True personal control remains elusive if your economic situation is in shambles. Money, while not the sole determinant, significantly influences every facet of your existence, your decisions, your freedom, and your mental tranquility. Living paycheck to paycheck, burdened by debt, or relying on uncertain income streams not only constricts your possibilities, but also perpetuates a constant state of anxiety. And anxiety is the antithesis of order. Clear thinking becomes impossible when every decision is dictated by a scarcity of resources. The ultimate objective isn't merely to earn more, but to manage what you currently possess with greater efficacy. Regardless of your income level, if you spend without direction, financial disarray will inevitably seep into your health, your relationships, and your capacity to construct a stable future. The foundation for imposing order on your finances begins with an honest appraisal of your current standing. You must possess an exact understanding of how much you earn, how much you expend, and the specific categories into which those expenditures fall. Many individuals believe they possess this knowledge, yet they haven't committed it to paper, haven't meticulously calculated it, and haven't reviewed it against concrete data. What isn't measured cannot be improved. Undertaking this financial analysis can be uncomfortable, as it forces you to confront your consumption habits, those impulsive purchases you rationalize as necessary, and those seemingly minor expenditures that, when aggregated, create a substantial deficit in your budget. However, this discomfort is precisely the initial step toward liberation. Once you have this clear financial snapshot, it is time to implement discipline. Every dollar that enters your life should have a designated purpose before it is spent. This is not about adopting a mindset of scarcity, but rather one of strategic allocation. Designate a percentage for your essential needs, another portion for investment and savings, and a remaining segment for discretionary spending. Adhere to this structure with the same solemnity you would a crucial contract, because, in essence, it is precisely that, the agreement you forge with yourself to ensure your stability and growth. A significant component of ordering your finances involves systematically eliminating unproductive debts as swiftly as possible. Debts function like shackles, severely limiting your range of action. You cannot seize opportunities if you are perpetually ensnared by interest payments that consume your income. Every payment directed toward debt reduction is more than a mere accounting transaction. It is an act of reclaiming your autonomy. Once liberated, your money ceases to be a source of stress and begins its transformation into a potent tool for progress. Financial order also encompasses preparing for the unforeseen. Establishing an emergency fund is not an indulgence, but a critical bulwark against chaos. Without it, any unexpected event, an illness, a necessary repair, a job loss, can destabilize everything you have painstakingly built. With such a fund in place, these same situations become manageable challenges. Consequently, when your financial life achieves stability, the other areas of your existence can align with far greater ease. Because order extends beyond the physical and mental, it is also numerical. Mastering these numbers, in turn, grants you a substantial degree of mastery over your destiny. Ordering your life also requires taking command of your inner landscape, your mind. You can achieve equilibrium in your finances, a meticulously planned schedule, and a decluttered physical space. Yet if your thought processes are a cacophony of noise, doubt, and distraction, you will perpetually feel as though you are navigating chaos. The mind serves as the central command post for your entire existence. Its activity directly informs every decision, every action, and ultimately, every outcome. If left untended, it transforms into fertile ground for procrastination, insecurity, and a pervasive sense of complacency. Most individuals do not falter due to a deficiency in capability, but rather a lack of mental direction. Their thoughts are scattered, flitting from one worry to another, becoming entangled in circumstances beyond their control, and draining energy on inconsequential matters. Mental order originates from learning to carefully filter what enters your consciousness. Every conversation, every news report, every piece of content you consume acts as nourishment for your mind. If you ingest detrimental input, you cannot expect clarity. If you surround yourself with negativity, optimism will not spontaneously bloom. Just as you wouldn't consume harmful foods expecting robust health, you cannot fill your mind with toxic notions and anticipate productivity and peace. Discerning what you observe, what you hear, and with whom you associate is not a matter of elitism. It is an essential act of self-preservation, given that your mental energy is finite and each stimulus vies for its allocation. Furthermore, Cultivating a structured system for processing your thoughts is paramount. This does not entail suppressing your emotions, but rather channeling them constructively. Transcribing fleeting ideas, engaging in solitary reflection, practicing mindfulness meditation, or simply taking a walk without digital distractions provides your mind with the necessary space to organize what might otherwise remain lodged and unresolved. Clarity is not an accidental byproduct. It is the direct result of deliberately creating opportunities for contemplation. A man who refrains from pausing to think is destined to react impulsively, and impulsive reactions rarely contribute to the construction of an ordered life. Now, consider how this applies when you face a particularly challenging situation. Without a mental framework to process it, the sheer weight of the problem can feel overwhelming, paralyzing your ability to devise a solution. Another crucial layer is the establishment of a robust framework for managing your physical well-being, aligning it with your overarching objectives. It matters little how lucid your vision or how precise your plans if your body lacks the requisite energy, strength, and resilience. The discipline you exercise in maintaining your physical health invariably cascades into every other domain of your life. It is no mere coincidence that individuals who sustain consistent physical habits also demonstrate greater tenacity in pursuing their professional and personal goals. Your body is the vehicle that transports you toward the realization of your aspirations, and if you neglect its upkeep, that vehicle will inevitably become sluggish, unstable, and prone to breakdown at the most critical junctures. When one's health is precarious, even the simplest tasks can feel like Herculean efforts. Conversely, when robust, even formidable challenges seem surmountable. The process of ordering your physical health commences with fundamental elements: adequate sleep, nutritious sustenance, and regular movement. Compromising on sleep, consuming food indiscriminately, and maintaining a sedentary lifestyle are acts of silent self-sabotage. Many men mistakenly believe they can compensate for these deficiencies with sheer willpower, but the reality is that a fatigued body invariably weakens the mind. Chronic exhaustion erodes concentration, stifles creativity, and undermines the capacity for sound decision-making. The aim here is not the pursuit of an idealized physique, but rather the attainment of an optimal functional state, where your energy levels empower you to confront each day with vigor and conclude it with the profound satisfaction of having performed at your utmost. Ordered nutrition is not a transient trend. It is a foundational pillar. Conscious eating involves selecting what truly nourishes your body over what merely satisfies immediate cravings. It's about understanding that each dietary choice represents either an investment or an accrued debt for your future well-being. A body that receives the appropriate nutrients responds with enhanced vitality, an improved disposition, and swifter recovery from any physical exertion or illness. The same principle applies to exercise. It should not be perceived as a punishment, but as a rigorous training and discipline that fortifies your character. Every repetition, every kilometer traversed, every workout session serves as a testament to your ability to push beyond perceived comfort zones. Sleep, moreover, is a non-negotiable aspect. Obtaining sufficient rest is not a luxury, but a strategic imperative for peak performance. During deep sleep, the body undergoes repair, the mind consolidates information, and emotional equilibrium is restored. Sacrificing sleep hours in the perceived pursuit of advancement is akin to attempting to drive a vehicle at maximum speed with an empty fuel tank. Sooner or later, it will inevitably stall, and the cost will far exceed any supposed time gained. Your health also encompasses your capacity to effectively manage stress. A body perpetually held in a state of tension ultimately externalizes mental distress in the form of physical ailments, chronic pain, and debilitating exhaustion. Engaging in activities that alleviate this tension is not a waste of time, but a vital investment in your sustained productivity and stability. Simple acts like walking, meditating, spending time in nature, or deliberately disconnecting from digital devices for a period all contribute to the holistic ordering of your life. The connection between your physical vessel and your ultimate destiny is direct and undeniable. A strong body affords you a greater margin for action, enhanced resilience in the face of adversity, and a heightened readiness to act decisively when opportunities arise. Order remains incomplete if your physical health is excluded, for inevitably, what you neglect today will become the most significant impediment to achieving your aspirations tomorrow. And that future, for better or for worse, is being constructed in this very moment through every decision you make regarding the treatment of your body. Ordering your life also means deliberately cultivating your social ecosystem. The individuals you associate with exert a continuous influence, for better or for worse. This impact is often more potent than you might consciously acknowledge. If you frequent circles of individuals who are content with mediocrity, who habitually lament their circumstances, or who justify their inaction with a litany of excuses, you will, inevitably, absorb aspects of that mindset. This isn't about adopting a posture of superiority. It's about recognizing that your social environment functions much like the climate. If it rains every single day, no matter how motivated you are, you will eventually get drenched. Consequently, if you aspire to order in your life, you must dispassionately assess who adds value and who subtracts it, who propels you forward and who anchors you down, who challenges you to grow and who consigns you to complacency. Not every connection warrants the same investment of your time or energy. Some relationships fortify you, built on mutual respect, honesty, and aligned aspirations. Others, however, drain your resources, often stemming from constant criticism, pervasive envy, or one-sided self-interest. Maintaining relationships that you recognize as detrimental is akin to attempting to cleanse your home while leaving the windows wide open during a dust storm. The disarray re-enters faster than you can possibly tidy up. Breaking free from such patterns is rarely simple, especially when these connections are sustained by shared history, familial ties, or an underlying fear of solitude. However, remember that your time and energy are finite commodities, and anyone who depletes them without offering reciprocal value is actively pulling you away from the life you are striving to construct. The discipline of ordering your social interactions also extends to intentionally surrounding yourself with individuals who embody the values and habits you wish to cultivate within yourself. A man who practices discipline tends to inspire discipline in others. An ambitious individual fosters ambition. Someone of integrity disseminates integrity. Conversely, a chaotic individual can inadvertently spread chaos. A perpetually negative person can transmit hopelessness, and someone prone to indolence can pass on apathy. People often act as mirrors, reflecting and amplifying what already exists within you, for better or for worse. Therefore, each interaction should be subjected to a rigorous filter. Does this person bring me closer to my best self, or do they draw me further away? If the answer leans toward the latter, then establishing distance becomes an act of profound self-care. This doesn't advocate for isolation, but for mindful selectivity. You can certainly maintain acquaintances, familial bonds, and professional colleagues who may not perfectly align with your principles, but your innermost circle, the group that fundamentally influences your decisions and shapes your perspective, should be composed of individuals who respect your journey and genuinely inspire your self-improvement. This inner circle functions as a vital support system, a network that upholds you during moments of doubt, propels you forward when you falter, and offers honest confrontation when you stray from your path. Without such support, maintaining order can feel like an uphill battle. With it, each step toward your objectives feels considerably more assured. Ultimately, ordering your social life isn't about severing ties arbitrarily, but about curating a human environment that amplifies your strengths and tolerates no room for your mediocrity. For genuine order is not solely an internal phenomenon. It is also meticulously constructed within the surrounding ecosystem. And by consciously selecting who enters that ecosystem, you are, in large measure, choosing the quality of the life you will experience in the future. To truly bring order to your existence, you must also define a clear, guiding purpose. Simply possessing discipline, adhering to healthy habits, and maintaining an organized environment is insufficient if you lack a defined destination. A life devoid of a clear purpose devolves into a series of hollow activities that, while keeping you occupied, lead you nowhere of true significance. A man without a purpose is perpetually busy, but seldom makes meaningful progress. His days become filled with disconnected tasks, and despite his efforts, he ultimately feels a pervasive sense of having accomplished nothing truly impactful. Purpose acts as the central axis, aligning all the disparate elements of your life and imbuing them with meaning. It transforms mere activity into tangible progress, and progress into authentic fulfillment. Defining one's purpose is not an exercise that can be completed in a few minutes, nor is it something that can be simply copied from what others deem valuable. It necessitates profound introspection and exploration of what genuinely motivates you, what holds genuine importance beyond external validation, and what you would pursue with unwavering dedication even if applause were absent. Ask yourself, if fear and limitations were non-existent, to what would I dedicate my most productive years? The answer to this introspective query offers a direct pathway toward your purpose. Once this purpose is clearly articulated, every subsequent decision, every habit cultivated, and every relationship nurtured must be evaluated based on whether it draws you closer to or pulls you away from that ultimate destination. A robust purpose serves as an indispensable compass amidst life's storms. It does not eliminate obstacles, but it crucially prevents you from losing your way. There will undoubtedly be days characterized by fatigue, confusion, or sheer frustration. However, if your purpose is well-defined, you will recognize that such weariness is an integral part of the journey, not a signal to abandon it. Conversely, in the absence of a guiding purpose, any minor difficulty can feel like an insurmountable reason to surrender. Without direction, problems loom larger, and victories feel hollow and fleeting. To keep your purpose vibrant and alive, it must be consistently nurtured through concrete actions. It is insufficient to merely record it on paper or recall it only during moments of heightened motivation. It must become the daily criterion by which you select your activities. If a particular undertaking does not contribute to your overarching purpose, then it is, by definition, a drain on your time and energy that could otherwise be invested in what truly matters. This unyielding filter is what transforms purpose from a mere inspirational ideal into a potent, practical tool. When you live with purpose, order emerges organically. Priorities become self-evident, distractions lose their allure, and temptations become more easily resisted because you understand that every minute is precious and cannot be squandered on pursuits that do not advance your core objectives. Purpose bestows a coherent narrative upon your life. Each chapter gains significance, and every effort undertaken is imbued with a profound rationale. And when this sense of meaning is present, motivation ceases to be a transient impulse and evolves into a steadfast force that propels you forward, even through the most arduous days. This is the true power of living with a clearly defined purpose. It transforms order into a way of life and your destiny into a deliberate choice. The ongoing refinement of your personal domain extends beyond the immediate organization of tangible items and manageable tasks. It demands a deliberate cultivation of your intellectual landscape, a conscious shaping of the very cognitive tools you employ. Consider how often you find yourself ensnared by fleeting thoughts, tangential curiosities, or the relentless churn of social media notifications, each vying for a piece of your mental bandwidth. This constant diffusion of attention, while often perceived as innocuous multitasking, is in fact a subtle yet profound erosion of your capacity for deep, impactful work and sustained focus. The very act of managing this informational ingress, of discerning what deserves your cognitive investment and what should be decisively filtered out, becomes a primary determinant of your effectiveness and overall sense of command. It's akin to a farmer meticulously tending to the soil, removing invasive weeds before they choke out the intended crop. Your mind, too, requires such diligent cultivation. Furthermore, developing a robust internal framework for processing and categorizing information is paramount. This involves more than simply absorbing data. It's about creating structured pathways for analysis, synthesis, and actionable retrieval. Imagine a vast library, meticulously cataloged, where every book is readily accessible. Your mind, when properly ordered, functions similarly. This isn't achieved through rote memorization, but through developing consistent methods for note-taking, journaling, or even engaging in structured brainstorming sessions. These practices transform scattered insights into accessible knowledge, allowing you to draw upon relevant information precisely when it's needed, rather than frantically searching through a disorganized mental archive. This proactive organization of your cognitive resources ensures that your problem-solving capabilities are not hampered by mental clutter. Conversely, neglecting this internal housekeeping can lead to a state of perpetual mental fatigue, where even simple decisions feel arduous. When your thoughts are a tangled mess of half-formed ideas and unresolved queries, the energy required to initiate and sustain any meaningful endeavor is significantly depleted. It's like trying to navigate a dense fog with a faulty compass. You might be moving, but your direction is uncertain, and progress is slow and fraught with peril. The strategic application of mental discipline, therefore, becomes not just beneficial but essential for maintaining momentum and making progress toward your defined objectives. This discipline involves consciously directing your focus, deliberately engaging with information that serves your goals, and just as importantly, consciously disengaging from that which detracts from them. Building on this concept, consider the profound impact of developing a sophisticated discerning capability, the art of critical evaluation applied not only to external information, but also to your own internal narratives. So many individuals operate under the weight of unexamined assumptions, inherited beliefs, and subconscious biases. These mental constructs, often invisible to the individual, can act as powerful inhibitors, silently dictating choices and shaping perceptions in ways that may not align with their desired outcomes. The process of ordering your life therefore necessitates a rigorous, ongoing self-examination, a willingness to question the foundations of your own thinking and to challenge deeply ingrained mental patterns that may no longer serve your highest good. This is not an exercise in self-criticism, but a deliberate act of mental liberation, freeing you to construct a more accurate and empowering internal model of reality. Cultivating a profound resilience against the pervasive drift of disorganization demands a constant, deliberate sharpening of your decision-making faculties. This isn't merely about making choices, but about honing the quality of those choices, ensuring they are rooted in foresight rather than reactive impulse. Consider the insidious nature of decision deferral, that subtle act of pushing back a necessary conversation, postponing a vital research effort, or delaying the implementation of a potentially awkward but ultimately beneficial policy change. Each instance, while seemingly minor in isolation, creates a ripple effect. It's like choosing not to patch a tiny leak in a boat. Over time, that small breach can lead to significant water ingress, jeopardizing the entire vessel. The individual who consistently defaults to delaying crucial decisions often finds their life's trajectory dictated by the accumulated weight of these deferred actions, feeling perpetually caught in a reactive cycle, always stemming a crisis rather than proactively steering their course. Building upon this, however, lies the critical skill of effective risk assessment, not merely in the financial sense, but in the broader context of personal growth. Many men shy away from calculated risks because the potential for failure looms large. Yet, it is precisely in embracing these controlled ventures, the ambitious project that stretches your capabilities, the challenging negotiation that pushes your communication boundaries, the investment of time and energy into a skill that might not yield immediate returns, that true forward momentum is generated. The opposite of this is a life lived entirely within a comfort zone, characterized by an absence of significant challenges and, consequently, a stagnation of personal development. This isn't to advocate for recklessness, but for a discerning courage that weighs potential downsides against the undeniable growth and opportunity that lie on the other side of a calculated leap. Without this willingness to engage with uncertainty, the pursuit of order becomes a pursuit of sterile sameness. Consequently, the very architecture of your mental frameworks must be systematically evaluated and, where necessary, fortified. Think of your core beliefs not as immutable truths, but as operating systems that run your life. If these systems are outdated, riddled with bugs, or fundamentally misaligned with your aspirations, they will inevitably lead to suboptimal outcomes. For instance, a deeply ingrained belief that failure is final can paralyze an individual, preventing them from learning from setbacks and adapting their strategies. Conversely, adopting a belief that failure is feedback transforms challenges into invaluable data points, fueling a continuous improvement cycle. This requires a conscious effort to identify these internal operating systems, to scrutinize their origins, and to rewrite the faulty code that limits your potential. This isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process of self-optimization, ensuring that your mental landscape is a fertile ground for growth, not a barren wasteland of limiting assumptions. Furthermore, understanding the intricate interplay between your internal state and your external environment becomes crucial. When your mental space is cluttered with unresolved anxieties, unproductive rumination, or a pervasive sense of inadequacy, this internal disarray inevitably manifests externally. It can lead to procrastination on important tasks, avoidance of necessary confrontations, or a general lack of follow-through. Conversely, when you cultivate mental clarity, emotional equilibrium, and a focused mindset, your external world begins to reflect this inner order. This isn't a magical transformation, but a natural consequence of having the cognitive and emotional resources to address your responsibilities effectively. It's the difference between trying to build a sturdy structure on shifting sands versus a solid foundation. The strength and stability of your internal architecture directly correlate with the robustness and order you can achieve in your external reality. The process of ordering your life also requires a strategic approach to time management that moves beyond simple scheduling and delves into the very essence of temporal allocation. Consider the profound difference between merely filling your calendar and intentionally investing your time. Many men approach their days as a series of tasks to be completed, often prioritizing those that are most visible or urgent, even if they hold little long-term significance. This reactive approach leads to a constant state of busyness without genuine progress. The true art lies in identifying activities that yield disproportionately high returns, the high-leverage actions that move the needle significantly on your most important goals. This requires a shift in perspective, from viewing time as a commodity to be spent, to seeing it as a finite resource to be strategically deployed for maximum impact. Think of it like a skilled investor who doesn't simply put their money into any available stock, but carefully selects investments with the highest potential for growth. You must apply this same rigor to your time. Furthermore, embracing the concept of time blocking can be transformative. This involves dedicating specific, uninterrupted blocks of time to particular types of work, shielding them from the incessant barrage of distractions. For instance, reserving 2 hours each morning for deep, focused work on a critical project, free from email, phone calls, or spontaneous meetings, can yield output far exceeding 8 hours of fragmented attention. This isn't about rigidity, but about creating protected zones where your most vital work can flourish, free from the ambient noise of daily life. It's about recognizing that true productivity often arises not from working harder, but from working smarter and with greater intention during focused periods. Conversely, consider the detrimental impact of context switching. Every time you shift your attention from one task to another, your brain expends energy recalibrating, reorienting, and regaining its prior level of focus. This constant toggling, while seemingly minor, accumulates significant cognitive overhead, diminishing your overall efficiency and increasing the likelihood of errors. By minimizing context switching through strategic time blocking and grouping similar tasks together, batching, you create a smoother, more efficient workflow. Imagine a craftsman who prepares all their tools and materials before starting a complex piece of carpentry. They don't constantly stop to fetch a misplaced hammer or search for a specific screw. This preparatory phase, analogous to your own task batching and time blocking, ensures a seamless progression through your work. Building upon this, however, is the necessity of integrating periods of strategic rest and recovery into your temporal framework. Many men err by viewing rest as a luxury or a sign of weakness, believing that constant activity is the sole pathway to achievement. This perspective is fundamentally flawed. In reality, sustained periods of intense focus and effort are only sustainable when punctuated by adequate downtime. This downtime allows your mind to consolidate information, your body to recover, and your creativity to regenerate. Failing to incorporate regular breaks, both short and long, is akin to continuously running a high-performance engine without allowing it to cool down. Eventually, it will overheat and cease to function effectively. Therefore, intentionally scheduling breaks, even short ones, and ensuring sufficient recovery time between periods of intense activity are not deviations from productive work, but essential components of a sustainable and ordered approach to your time. This holistic view of temporal management, encompassing focused investment, strategic blocking, minimal switching, and essential recovery, forms the bedrock of a life where time serves your goals rather than dictates them through relentless demands. Now, consider how this applies when you face a situation where your personal boundaries have been consistently eroded. The accumulation of ignored requests, the inability to say no when overloaded, and the persistent feeling of being taken advantage of all point to a critical deficit in assertive communication. This isn't about aggression. It's about clearly and respectfully articulating your needs and limits. When you fail to establish these vital personal guardrails, you essentially invite chaos into your intimate spaces, allowing the demands of others to dictate your schedule and deplete your finite energy reserves. Imagine a city without designated public spaces or private residences. The entire urban landscape would devolve into a free-for-all, with no respect for individual occupancy or tranquility. Your personal boundaries function as those designated zones, ensuring that your time, energy, and emotional space are protected. Building upon this, however, lies the crucial skill of proactive boundary setting, as opposed to merely reactive defense. Many individuals wait until they are completely overwhelmed or resentful before attempting to assert their limits. This reactive stance often leads to strained relationships and ineffective communication, as the message can be perceived as coming from a place of frustration rather than clear intent. Proactive boundary setting involves anticipating potential boundary crossings and establishing clear expectations before they become an issue. For instance, before agreeing to a new collaborative project, a man might proactively state, "I can commit to this, but my availability is limited to X hours per week, and I need to protect my evenings for family time." This preemptive clarity prevents misunderstandings and establishes a foundation of mutual respect from the outset. It shifts the dynamic from one of appeasement to one of conscious partnership. Consequently, the very architecture of your interpersonal interactions must be systematically evaluated and, where necessary, fortified. Think of your relationships not as static entities, but as dynamic ecosystems that require continuous tending. If these ecosystems are contaminated by chronic negativity, constant criticism, or a pervasive lack of reciprocity, they will inevitably sap your vitality and impede your progress. The process of ordering your life therefore necessitates a discerning appraisal of your social connections, a willingness to identify those relationships that genuinely nourish your growth and those that subtly drain your resources. This isn't an exercise in isolation, but a deliberate act of curating an environment that supports your highest aspirations. It requires recognizing that not all connections are created equal, and some require distance or a redefinition of their terms to maintain your own equilibrium. Conversely, consider the detrimental impact of neglecting the cultivation of your own well-being in service of external demands. When your own energy stores are depleted, your capacity to effectively manage external pressures diminishes exponentially. It's like trying to pour from an empty pitcher. No matter how willing you are, there is simply no liquid to give. This self-neglect often stems from a deeply ingrained belief that personal needs are secondary to the needs of others or the demands of a task. However, this perspective is fundamentally unsustainable. True productivity and sustained contribution are only possible when your own well-being is prioritized. This involves understanding that activities such as adequate sleep, nourishing food, physical movement, and moments of genuine relaxation are not indulgences, but essential prerequisites for optimal functioning. They are the investments that replenish your capacity to meet life's demands with resilience and clarity. Without this foundational self-care, any attempts at external order become a Sisyphean task, a constant struggle against an ebbing tide of personal depletion. Reflecting on this journey so far, we've journeyed through the intricate architecture of personal order, examining not just the surface manifestations, but the deeply embedded systems that govern our daily existence. The scattered pieces we initially observed are now beginning to coalesce, not into a rigid blueprint, but into a dynamic framework capable of adapting to life's inherent fluidity. What once appeared as isolated challenges, the persistent distractions, the financial entanglements, the draining social dynamics, the wandering thoughts, are revealed in convergence as interconnected facets of a larger, unified reality. The effort invested in understanding these interconnectedness, in recognizing how a shift in one area invariably influences the others, is not about achieving a static perfection, but about cultivating a resilient capacity for sustained forward momentum. The insights gained are not merely theoretical, they are practical underpinnings for navigating the complexities that inevitably arise. In light of these interwoven discoveries, the path ahead emerges with a quiet clarity. It's a path less about imposing external controls and more about solidifying an internal compass, one that reliably guides decisions and actions. The cumulative effect of the principles explored is akin to a skilled cartographer meticulously charting a vast and complex territory. What was once an uncharted wilderness, replete with potential hazards and hidden pitfalls, gradually transforms into a landscape where routes are discernible, destinations are clear, and the traveler possesses the confidence to embark, knowing they are equipped not just with a map, but with the understanding to navigate unforeseen terrain. This comprehensive perspective fosters a profound shift from reactive management to proactive direction, allowing for a more deliberate and impactful engagement with life's unfolding narrative. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider the emergent understanding that true order is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of an unwavering internal structure that allows one to meet those challenges with unwavering resolve. It's the quiet confidence that arises from knowing your foundation is solid, even when the winds of change begin to blow. The convergence of these explored ideas illuminates a profound truth, that the mastery of one's external circumstances is inextricably linked to the mastery of one's internal state. This integration, this bringing together of disparate elements into a harmonious whole, is the ultimate expression of personal sovereignty, paving the way for an existence defined not by reaction, but by intentional creation. The momentum built through consistent application is now poised to carry you into a final declaration of unwavering personal power and boundless potential. The profound truth that has unfurled is that the essence of order isn't found in the illusion of a flawless existence, but in the deliberate cultivation of an internal architecture capable of weathering life's inherent storms. It's about transitioning from a reactive posture, constantly buffeted by external forces, to a proactive stance, where you, as the architect of your own reality, set the prevailing course. This journey has illuminated how the scattered fragments of our lives, the lingering tasks, the financial anxieties, the complex social webs, the restless thoughts, are not isolated issues but interconnected elements of a unified system. When you begin to understand this intricate dance, when you see how tending to one area inevitably strengthens another, you realize that true progress isn't about achieving static perfection, but about fostering a dynamic resilience, a steadfast capacity for continuous forward movement. The insights gleaned are not merely conceptual. They are the fundamental building blocks for navigating the inevitable complexities that life presents. The path illuminated by this exploration is not one of imposing external controls, but of fortifying an internal compass. This compass, honed through conscious effort and unwavering commitment, serves as your reliable guide, dictating decisions and directing actions with unwavering clarity. The cumulative effect of the principles discussed is akin to a seasoned navigator charting a vast and often unpredictable sea. What once appeared as an uncharted expanse, fraught with potential hazards and hidden obstacles, gradually resolves into a discernible landscape. Routes become clear, destinations are defined, and the traveler embarks with a quiet confidence, armed not just with a map, but with the profound understanding to navigate even the most unforeseen shifts in the currents. This comprehensive perspective cultivates a transformative shift from mere reactive management to intentional, proactive direction, enabling a more deliberate and impactful engagement with the unfolding narrative of your life. Ultimately, The realization dawns that genuine order transcends the mere absence of chaos. It is instead defined by the presence of an unshakable internal structure, a resilient foundation that empowers you to confront challenges with unwavering resolve. It is the quiet confidence that blossoms when you know your core is solid, even when the winds of change begin to gust. The convergence of these explored ideas reveals a profound interconnectedness. The mastery of one's external circumstances is inextricably linked to the mastery of one's internal state. This integration, this harmonizing of disparate elements into a cohesive whole, represents the highest form of personal sovereignty, paving the way for an existence characterized not by endless reaction, but by deliberate, conscious creation. The momentum cultivated through consistent application now propels you towards a final understanding of your inherent power and boundless potential. The true practice begins now, in the quiet space between intention and action, where your life, by your own hand, is finally and irrevocably ordered.